Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Now lightsaber blades, they're supposed to be weightless. All of the weight in this weapon is supposed to be in the hilt. This is why these weapons appear a lot heavier than one would imagine. In the recent episode of Book of Boba Fett, Return of the Mandalorian, we see Djarin and a few other individuals wielding the Darksaber and really struggling with what seems to be the weapon's heavy weight. Today I want to take a look at why this is happening. Why is Djarin struggling so much, and what can he do to actually improve his skills with the lightsaber? Maybe he just needs to get a little bit, I don't know, Debo Samuels? For now, Djarin is technically the Darksaber's rightful owner, which technically does make him the Mandalore, or leader of his people. So he better figure out how to properly use the Darksaber very quickly, because every Mandalorian worth their Beskar is probably going to be gunning after him. Before we continue, guys, a word from our sponsor for today's video, OwnASaber.com. If you watch this channel, you guys know that I'm a slug thrower kind of guy. I'm a little bit too cynical to believe in the Jedi and all of their nonsense. I also think it's a bit arrogant for them to bring a melee weapon to what essentially is a blaster fight. But actually having one of these things in your hands, specifically the Xenopixel Lightbearer, and hearing the thrum of the energy as you swing the blade around or block imaginary blaster bolts, well, it's kind of epic. And you can customize this thing to your liking, including changing the color, the sound effects, and whether you want this blade to be steady or something a bit more chaotic and about to explode like Kylo Ren's blade. And I haven't even mentioned my favorite mode, which of course is blaster mode.
You never kiss me alive!
If this sounds like something you're interested in, check out OwnASaber.com. We'll link it down below. They're going to give you 20% off all lightsabers. Plus, if you use my promo code MEOW, that's all caps, you can get another 10% off. All right, thank you for your patience. On to the rest of the video. Now, the Darksaber looks unlike any other lightsaber in Jedi history. For one, the blade is black, and it's also angular and has a knife-like point at the end. The blade, like other lightsaber blades, was still made out of plasma, and it visually looked like it was sucking in all nearby light, like a black hole. But the Darksaber, like most lightsabers, was still powered at its core by a kyber crystal. These peculiar force-attuned crystals were one of the few elements known in the galaxy that could actually amplify energy. As in, if you put energy into a kyber crystal, the output is actually greater. It was seen by scientists as the future in energy. Galen Erso, one of the leading crystallographers in the galaxy, was obsessed with these crystals. His original research on the kyber crystal's ability to create unlimited free energy was ultimately perverted by the Empire and utilized in the Death Star's main super laser. Galen Erso was mesmerized by the otherworldly beauty of these crystals, but unfortunately, he wasn't force sensitive, so he could never truly understand the Kyber song. Now, the Darksaber is actually forged by a Mandalorian Jedi named Tar Vizsla. Like any other Jedi, Tar would have entered the crystal mines on Ilum as a Padawan and been sent on a quest to find a Kyber crystal of his own. Kyber crystals were more than just minerals, though. They were conduits for the Force, and some would even describe them as living crystals. When a Padawan first enters the Ilum crystal mines, they are tested by the Force and the crystals themselves. If they are found worthy, then the kyber crystals will reveal itself to the Padawan. The Sith had their own very close and more perverted relationship with their kyber crystals as well. In order to get the telltale red blade of a Sith, the Force user had to bombard their kyber crystal with hate and dark side energy until the crystal turned red and started bleeding. So, as you can see, to say that a lightsaber is alive and has a very close emotional connection to its owner is not as far-fetched as you might imagine. Although some researchers and Force scholars theorize that perhaps the kyber crystal is just a conduit that magnifies the cosmic force that surrounds us all, and so the sentience we feel coming from the saber is just background galactic sentience radiation from every living thing around us being channeled through the kyber crystal. If this is a little bit confusing, don't worry, Donnie Yen explains it in live-action Mulan.
The Chi pervades the universe and all living things. We are all born with it. But only the most true will connect deeply to his
Darksaber
and become a great
Mandalore. Anyway, it wasn't uncommon for individuals to have force visions triggered by kyber crystals as well. The point is, the kyber crystal is not just some dead physical object that just converts power into plasma blades. It actually needs to be treated as a consciousness of some sort that has a say in how the blade is being used. As a matter of fact, those who wielded the blade proficiently, like a Jedi or Sith Master, will almost merge consciousness with their blade when performing at the highest level. You'll hear Jedi and Sith alike talk about how once they engage in heavy combat, They no longer choose to make individual movements and strikes. Instead, they just fall into the rhythm of the Force and the combat. For any of you guys out there who like doing sports or playing music or maybe even writing, this is very similar to kind of getting into the zone. You know, when you're so focused, you're not really actually thinking about your individual actions. You're at a higher level of consciousness where everything is almost instinctual and comes out automatically. So clearly Djarin is struggling to do very basic things with the Darksaber, and when Paz Vizsla picks it up for a short time, he can barely even lift it at all. At first, one will assume that this is a physical weakness that both individuals have, or perhaps it's a way to keep non-Force users from holding the blade. Maybe Jedi and Sith just use their special powers to amplify their strength so that they can wield these incredibly heavy weapons, and no one else can. Well, the Mandalorian armorer has surprising clarity about why this is happening.
There, feel it? You are too weak to fight the Darksaber. It will win if you fight against it. You cannot control it with your strength.
So what does this mean? Why is the blade fighting Djarin? Simply put, Djarin's mind is not clear, and that's conflicting with how the Darksaber wants to fight. Which leads me to my next question: how does the armor even know any of this? I ask this because Mandalorians usually don't know anything about the Jedi apart from what part of their skull is the softest so that they can breach it and bash their brains in. These are practical people who like explosives and blaster bolts and close-range knife fights with relatives. Just give them some empty beer bottles to throw around and boom, you got Eagles fans. Perhaps as our tribe's leader, the armorer also knows important historical information like how the Darksaber works from previous Mandalores' accounts. I can imagine it already. Mandalore the Ultimate, super buff and masculine with his cape and helmet, hunched over his dream journal, writing in another anxiety-ridden entry about how he can't pick up the Darksaber and how that makes him a sad Mandalore. But this actually is a problem that all non-Force sensitives have with lightsabers, not just Mandalorians picking up the Darksaber for the first time. It's widely reported that for the uninitiated, lightsabers have a gyroscopic force that actually moves the blade in its own way. Gyroscopic is probably not the right term to be used, but that is the term that they used. But I would describe this more like a phantom pull and tug. It's like the blade is fighting you because the kyber crystal either finds you unworthy or is just completely out of sync from you and unable to protect your movements. This is really important because, remember, the Jedi perceive incoming attacks before they actually happen. And I think they're able to do this because of their lightsaber, which again is a conduit to the Force around them. So it amplifies all of that energy and also the intentions of other individuals around you. And so if this lightsaber can soak up the energy of other individuals around you that are your enemy, it can definitely soak up your own energy. And whether a kyber crystal is just a conduit to the wider Force or is sentient by itself, a conflicted individual or a person who doesn't have the right mindset will give off the wrong type of energy, and the lightsaber won't be able to properly sync like Bluetooth technology. In the past, when we took a look at individuals like Pre Vizsla, who wielded the Darksaber with surprising skill, we also noticed how utterly focused and determined he was to become Mandalore and unite the world. I mean, sure, he had a lot of dumb ideas and bad intentions as well, like that false flag attack he planned against his own planet with those criminal scum, but Pre Vizsla always believed himself worthy of the Darksaber and carried himself as a leader would. Djarin, on the other hand, is far more subservient and far less ambitious. He's not really looking for leadership, he just wants to hang out with Gogurt and take some bounty hunting jobs on the side. He'll need to find a way to awaken the Mandalorian side of him so that the Darksaber can truly be his to wield. There are two ways this thing can go. Either Djarin just has to accept the fact that he will have to assume the responsibility of the Mandalore, and that will just clear his mind up, or he'll have to find someone who can actually train him so he can properly wield the Darksaber. Well, clearly, if accepting the responsibility for the Mandalorian throne was the only prerequisite, then Gatling Gun Mando would have struggled far less than he did when he got his hands on it. What if the saber, instead of sensing which individuals want to become the Mandalore, senses which individuals would make a good Mandalore? Pre Vizsla, despite all of his flaws, did manage to destroy the new Mandalorians, who weren't exactly preserving the Mandalorian culture. Maybe that's why the sword deemed Pre Vizsla worthy over Satine Kryze. But there is another option for Djarin, and that is finding that trainer we talked about, aka Master Skywalker. We know that Djarin is going to try and find the Jedi and Baby Gogurt anyway. Why not just ask Jedi Master Luke Skywalker how to wield the weapon as well? Maybe Luke can train Djarin in some basic Jedi meditation forms to clear his mind and heart. Maybe the Jedi Master even has some old holocrons of, say, Anakin, doing some basic lightsaber tutorials on it. I mean, one quick way to lessen the amount of struggle for Djarin is to learn the basic lightsaber forms. This might be more in line with what the Darksaber expects from its wielder in the first place. So there you have it, guys. Whether Djarin listens to me or not is a whole nother issue. I do hope he figures out how to use the Darksaber, because he is really terrible at that thing, and I don't want to see him lose any more skin or flesh from his own mistakes. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.